It's basically the will of the commission from my standpoint. Generally, the mayor has served as the chair of this commission. I don't feel any particular ownership, and if anybody wants to make a motion that somebody else serve as chair, it's all right with me. Guess hearing none, we'll go ahead and call to order and roll call. To all of those that were here in 2010, are there any comments on the minutes? If anybody remembers what we did. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We do have the scores that were given here and the allocations of those monies, but we still have to pass on those. Those minutes. So, if I have a motion,
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it sounds like we have a complete agreement there. We have to record conflicts of interest. In my understanding, there are two kinds. One is that you might belong to one of these organizations or have specific interest in one of these organizations. You may make a statement to that effect. That does not preclude you from voting. Another one is if somehow you actually directly benefit. That's a different situation and might put you in the position of abstaining in some fashion on the vote. And I guess I will start off. I am a member of the McLaughlin Memorial Association. I'm on, and I'm not on their executive board, but I am on their board. And one of these is from that particular association. If there's any concerns about that, this would be a time to bring it up. Does anybody else have any specific issues that they need to go forward in membership? Yeah.
Should we mention that, for example, I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, yeah. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce, too. Yeah, okay.
And also I serve on a couple of committees at Main Street.
Okay. I'm on the, there you go. I'm a business member of the Chamber of Commerce. Every city commissioner, however, is on the Chamber of Commerce too, because we are all, the city itself is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but I do have my own business, and that business is a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And since you mentioned, what else did you mention?
Main Street.
I'm now the city rep on Main Street, Oregon City, but that's a city assignment. That I should have declared all that. Sorry about that.
How about your car? How about your car?
What about my car?
The race club, the car club?
No, it's not. I used to have some old beaters that might have looked like they should have been, but they were actually newer than they appeared to be. But no.
I have a question on conflict of interest. My wife is considering being one of the artists at the.
As a vendor?
No.
Three Rivers?
No, it should be
That's
fine.
not.
Yeah, it was the first Friday, I think.
Yeah.
And, as an artist down there, would that create a conflict?
We don't have an attorney, but I guess I'd ask if anybody has an issue with that particular question.
No.
So I don't think so. We're just asking about conflicts of interest. If you're a member of any group or organization that's putting forward things, and of course, window asking how many.
One.
Okay.
One for sure.
I thought
one association.
I thought I had one as well, but then they pointed out I had about 2 or 3 more. So.
As far as the proposals I saw, that's the only one in this group.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there are any issues. I haven't heard any issues brought forward by any of these. And are you subbing for David Wimmer today?
I am.
Are you prepared to talk about funding forecasts?
No.
No, he will be here shortly. If there was any more difficult questions, he will answer those, address them when he gets here.
Okay, very good.
But if there are general questions,
I had a general question that you may be able to address. I noticed in the minutes that that there was a motion to refer the funding for the concerts in the park was referred to the general fund. Has that been done?
They are making no applications. The parks, my understanding is Parks is making no applications for the concerts in the park.
But that wasn't your question, really, was it?
It was close to it. It was close to it because they already got the cookie jar last year, but I didn't know if
They have opted not to do so,
Okay.
based on discussions that occurred at among this group.
Okay.
So they are not seeking funding from any, my understanding is they're not seeking funding from any of the granting organizations for this year.
Rocky's right, though. That really wasn't my
The
question.
general fund, is it coming out of the general
I'm
fund?
assuming it's coming out of the
Yeah.
general fund.
Well, they do
Yeah, it's happening.
fundraisers also,
Right.
though.
Yes.
I mean, they get sponsors, band
Yeah.
sponsors and
Yeah.
so forth, and that makes up, I think, a larger portion of their revenues.
And if they needed any more,
They can't come here.
they can't come here. They
That's
have to
right.
go to the general fund.
Yeah. We met the deadlines for this particular
Oh, yeah.
grant, so no, they could not come here. Yeah. And so did that one answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about
No,
that.
no, that's fine.
Any other questions? In my minutes, I have listed here discussion items, and I guess I'm not quite sure what to discuss. However, I do think Michelle Denville had mentioned a particular situation that might affect the monies that are available. And Michelle?
If you were to turn to tab 5, under the 0708 year, funding year, Park Place Neighborhood Association had a request that year, which went unfunded, and in years past had gotten approval for an extension. And last June, they did not come forth with an extension because they thought they would have the project done. And thus, the project didn't get done. And so, by formally, the funds now revert back into the funding pot, and they would then make applications in years, when they get to the point where the project's ready to go forth.
Was this amount of money included in the, I understood there were 45,000 available. Was this money included in that 45,000?
No, it was not.
Okay, and so this makes available how much additional?
So that would be 52.
Yeah, so that's 7,000, so for $52,000 available.
So I just wanted to bring that forth to the committee to let them know that that was the sequence of events. And if there was any questions or
So-
concerns.
Did you try to contact anybody in the park neighborhood?
Yes, I was in contact with the project manager coordinator several times, and at the time prior to last year's meeting, I let her know that if we needed an extension to please bring it forth. She said no, we would have the project done, and after the June 30th date, nothing was submitted for reimbursement, and the project hadn't gone forth at that point.
Okay, unless there's any concern, we'll go ahead and include that 7,000 for additional 52 to work. Right? Is that okay? Oh, yes. Let's see. I can see you there.
If you want, yeah, just have a seat at one of the microphones, and you'll state your name, and that would be great.
Hello, I'm Nancy Walters. Thanks for your consideration this evening. Michelle is correct. We really were hoping to get this finished by June 30th last year, and we kind of ran into a few obstacles. I kind of highlighted where we are on the project. So far we have 10 of the 12 locations identified. We have 4 project site renderings nearly complete, ready for city review and approval. Some of the sign content has been developed, but we're still working on that, and we have a project website that has a lot of information on it. The focus of the request that we put in a couple of years ago, if we were to complete it, would be in two locations. We have two themes, one at Steve's Market and one further east on Webster Road. And those two themes are opportunity and gathering spaces. It includes some planter boxes along Holcomb in front of Steve's Market. We actually tried to order those planter boxes last year, but they were sold out in the summer, and we weren't able to get them. And also the Holcomb Sidewalk project, we thought was going to be complete years ago, and it wound up not finished until fall of 2010. So we were really waiting for that to get finished because we wanted to place these with respect to the lighting and where the sidewalks are located, because they have to go. There's not a whole lot of public right-of-way because it's really constrained. So we really were waiting for the sidewalk to get finished. We had a lot of volunteer effort focused on the Housing Authority redevelopment project. A lot of our people, myself included, were very involved in that project, so it kind of took away a lot of our volunteer effort, as well as the community garden there. And plus our Park Place neighborhood members were pretty spread thin with Urban Renewal Commission and CIC duties. And then with the winter weather, we weren't able to really do a lot on the project. So I met with the steering committee on March 23rd and told them of our situation, and that we were just, that my plan as a project manager was to continue working on the project and come in for new funds because of the situation we're in. But they expressed a real interest in trying to see if we could prevail upon your goodwill and see if we can finish it. So I've identified kind of a completion plan. We do have 3 new people who are willing to help us finish the project. We intend to submit the 2 site renderings for this money by June 30th of 2011, as well as some detailed cost estimates. And we wouldn't expend any money without providing that information to the city and getting advance approval. So it's really up to your discretion, and we're just asking if you would consider our requests for one final extension, hopefully.
How many extensions have there been?
I think there's been 3.
Any comments?
Mainly because the Holcomb Road project was not completed until last fall. And, you know, it's been, like I said, a host of reasons. Diminishing membership, people being spread thin with other projects. But we do still have a strong interest, and we'll continue to work on it regardless, and we hope to come back in the future if this is not granted tonight.
This, I remember this when it first came as a grant, and it's a good project. It's a really good project, and so I would like to see us stick with our $45,000 limit and keep that portion in there for this project to still happen. That would be
we're really committed to doing it, and we will continue regardless. But we will need to find money elsewhere if it's not available through this. And I think we're in a good place with the additional volunteers that are motivated and really want to see this get finished.
I move that we keep the funds in our account that were originally earmarked for this project still in our account for future use on this project.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion. I pushed the button. I guess that's not working.
William, there's a microphone in
It
front
is
of
working,
Anthony.
and yes, I recognize Mr. Gibbard.
A couple of
There
questions.
may be an on button.
Maybe. It's green. Does that mean anything?
Yes, you're on. Yeah.
I'm on?
Yeah. Oh, well, that's green. I'm looking at the screen sign here that says William Gifford. Actually, the white says William Gifford, but the background's green.
Some might think I'm fine, but 2 questions from Ms. Walters. One is, did you mention that there was a website for the project?
Yes, it's parkplaceneighborhood.org. I should have probably provided that.
The second question is, just as a point of clarity, is the $7,000 taken out of the $45,000?
No, the 45,000.
Is
I think any monies that are
Two separate.
earmarked at this point are not included in the
Correct.
45. This is new money.
Okay, well, I would speak for the motion and the fact that, this is something that the OCCIT trustees had previously granted, and I
Right.
think that they ought to honor that request, but I think that, because of the number of extensions, I would say, one last shot, and if you can't pull it off this year, then go back and
Fair.
reapply.
Yeah.
That's fair. Thank you. More than fair.
Can you add that to your motion?
So added.
So I would ask for a date.
Well, what calendar, I mean, the regular year.
By June 30th of 12.
Well, I see some people in the audience. I did want to make a comment. We do have individuals here that met the deadlines in terms of application. The ability to request an extension could have been done at that particular time when these application deadlines were met. That hasn't happened. And it really puts, I believe, some of the other entities here that have made applications in an unfavorable position because they met the deadline, they made the proposals, and we're getting something that's dated March 30th, which is today. That's my comment.
I received an email from Michelle, about a week ago, asking me to come here to answer any questions. So I prepared this to help explain where we are. I don't have any expectations. I'm just asking
I
for
requested her
consideration.
to contact you.
Yeah.
too. I see a person in the audience wishes to come up and comment. Well, no, we really want you up here.
Thanks.
Just Lloyd Purdy from downtown. Just a point of process, I guess. In past years, it's not been every candidate for funding gets to come up and say a spiel. Are we changing that process?
No, this
No, this is
application
a-
was
this-
funded 3 years ago, and actually one of our volunteers was working on your project all summer last year. So
I'm
that's
just-
another reason why we
No,
haven't had the
that's
effort
fine.
on
I'm
it.
just.
This is not a request for this year. I mean,
It's
as
an
part of this
extension.
process,
Yes,
it's
it
just,
would-
it's a, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just
It's a
wondering if
different
everybody
topic.
that's something under consideration is going to get a chance to come up because in
No.
past years we haven't done that.
No, because she's not making a request for this process for this year. This is a grant that was awarded in the past that she's,
Okay. Okay. I
It's a
just wanted to
different
clarify.
process.
I wasn't clear. It seemed like that's all I wanted to ask. No comment on your deliberation, just clarity on,
And,
on
and,
the process.
and you can maybe give a vote of confidence for one of our volunteers.
Sure. What was the point of the project again?
It's a history project, interpretive science.
So it sounds like it's a great metro project, but less of a tourism project. And the metro grants is on May.
That's up to these people.
Perfect
to
timing.
Lloyd, that's
Perfect
not
timing.
your call.
No, I know. You just asked my opinion on that. I just wanted to clear. Will everybody that has a project come up, or we're going to stick with the same process from last year? Where
Well, we're sticking with the same process. This is one that they're
Exception.
requesting an extension of the process. I don't know that anybody else here has actually asked for an extension. They have no
Okay.
proposals before us.
okay, thanks.
My understanding, however, is that, and I think it's appropriate to bring me up, is there an issue with also the Park Place and the other granting authority that we have? It's not this commission, but it's the,
The Metro
Metro
Enhancement, there
Enhancement
was
Fund.
also funds as well.
so there were funds allocated earlier for that one too. So in any case, we do have the motion, we do have the second. Take the vote.
I have one more
Okay.
thing to say.
Yes.
And I actually had another, what?
I was telling,
Yeah.
excuse me, I was mentioning to our chair not to rush this process. We only do this once a year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop because we have Anthony Moore on the list, so I'll let
yeah,
him
that's-
speak next, and I'll get you, Rocky.
Well, for those of us that weren't on the committee last year, I was hoping that you could educate me on how this will promote tourism to Oregon City.
Well, at the time that we applied for the grant, the into the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center. The Oregon Trail Interpretive Center was still operating, and so our vision was to create connection with the Oregon Trail and the other history attractions in the city. We feel that people don't even know where the trail is in Oregon City because it's not marked. We also feel that the trail itself is notable for a number of reasons, and we felt that we could tell a real story through different themes and bringing in the immigrant experiences relative to those themes that also have a more transcendent value as far as our world today. So we have knowledge at the school site, essentially focusing on things that people learned that they didn't know before they traveled along the trail, and also giving people an opportunity to think about the things that they wish that they had known in life, focusing on knowledge, opportunity. For we have a corner, this one on Webster, focusing on the opportunities that are available for people and why they left. Challenge is one, sustenance, movement. We've got all these different themes carrying through the immigrant experiences and trying to relate them to our world today to try to create this connection both physically as well as through history.
So this would be like a walking tour?
Yeah, it's about every quarter mile from the corner of Redland, Holcomb, Abernathy, and it goes all the way up to almost the east end of Oregon City.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
One of the things I wanted to mention with that is when we did our evaluation for this year's grant, we were making those evaluations and looking at these grants with the assumption that we were working with $45,000. So I don't think to say that, so we were working within those confines anyway. The other thing, I do agree to some in portion that we want to make sure all the people that have applied for grants this year have a fair share at getting their projects funded. But in addition to that, I want to make a comment now during this discussion time, which I hope to bring up when we start actually awarding the grants, and that is that in the past couple of years, we've had lots of discussions about this whole process and how we rank projects and how we fund certain projects. I still think it's not right how we do some of those things, but we have the discussion, and we usually come to a good decision in the end. One of the things that really, though, has bothered me in the past in this process is I've applied for projects prior to being a city commissioner through this process, and so I've been aware of OCCIT for a long time and Metro Enhancement and the difference between the two. And the concept really, in my mind, we want to encourage new projects, new and different projects. And sometimes this becomes a process in which people come again and again and again and again and again year after year. And that's okay to some degree because some of these projects are huge, major projects for Oregon City that are so valuable we don't want to not fund them. But coming year and year after again kind of also negates the possibility of new individual projects, which I think this kind of is a one-time project that's unique that we don't see very often. And so that's why I think we need to make some considerations for that. In terms of the money limitation situation, I look at 3 requests that came to us this year that are asking for double. So not just coming again from last year and asking for another grant equal to what they've asked for the past, but asking double what they've asked for in the past. If we took just the 3 events that came to us this year and just fully funded them what they asked for last year, we could fund every grant on this page tonight full. So those are the kind of questions I think we need to be asking. Is it okay I think it's okay for people to come back year after year for major projects that do important things for the city. And I think that the 3 that are asking this money are those type of projects. But you have then the Oregon City Antique Fair, which has come year after year after year, but they've also weaned off a little bit. They started with this request, and every year it goes down or stays the same. They don't ever ask for more. And I also think we can make accountable, I think we can have discussions about even increasing the next year to account for a bigger project, or maybe, cost of living kinds of increases, but asking double what you've asked for next year just because you got it last year and now you think, I think that worries me. And we've had that even with our own city projects coming and asking for those things. So I hope that when we get to the rating, we can have that discussion, because even if we looked at some of the grants tonight that are asking double, we could fund them fully, or even add $1,000 to their request from last year and still fund all the projects. So I think we need to kind of think about the unique projects like this that come to us and how they're important too. Even though we agree that these annual events are crucial, how do we weigh those? And I think that's an important discussion to have.
I think our discussion actually can take on other items before we actually get to the vote on the specific project. So I'm going to ask, I see Wendell Baskins, and you're speaking specifically to the item of the motion.
I am.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I must declare a conflict of interest in this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So you won't be voting?
I will not be voting, but this is one of the projects that I was fortunate enough to set in this position when it initially came up. And thinking which way to go. I would speak in favor of the project and the continuation, because as the heritage community starts to rebuild itself over the last year or so, it's been rocked pretty well to the bottom with various things. Those projects that we can help put in place that will first thing, encourage tourism to come into the community, and the second thing, maybe slow those tourism dollars down somehow before they leave, I think is in the essence of what our granting structure should be. And even though I won't vote, I would like to speak in favor of this project, giving it one more year as the motion stated.
And I'll simply ask you, do you want to declare the reason why you're abstaining?
Say again?
The reason you're declaring a conflict of interest.
I am declaring a conflict of interest because the Oregon Historic Trails Advisory Council, which is the Governor's Commission, which sets in contact with these, and also I sit on the Board of Directors of the Oregon Community Foundation Historic Trails Advisory Council, which may be someday in a granting mode for this project.
You can choose to abstain, but I don't believe there's a reason to do so, because you're not directly impacted by this grant request. So I think you're free to vote, but that's up to you.
If that's the chair, then
I don't think there's an issue.
I don't think there's an issue.
okay.
Okay.
You're not making a personal gain out of this.
Absolutely not.
Okay. We'll go ahead and
Other
take.
comments? Or?
We'll go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple more quick comments. Yeah, my name's still, I don't know how to take my name off of there.
Oh, she's supposed to, but that's all right.
Thank you for not-
Oh, you can withdraw.
No. One is I
See,
want
I
to
don't
support
know
the
this
concept that this is definitely a tourism-related project. And I don't think there's really a big question about that. I want to point out that there, one of the other, and I don't want to use excuse, I'll use the word reasons possibly for the delay of this project. That I know that from a CIC perspective that the Park Place Neighborhood Association has had some membership problems, and trying to reactivate that membership and control volunteerism at the same time, I think is a tough row to hoe. And I certainly would want to give them some slack in that regard. I do notice that the last posting on the website was July of last year, so I would hope that might be updated sometime soon. I didn't see anything particularly regarding this project, but it looks like a great website. I'd like to see more about it.
If you go to, did you go to? Are you there now or?
Yeah, I was.
Oh, if you go to the Park Place History Project.
Oh, there? Okay.
Yeah, that's where, and we do have a lot of information to load. It's just a matter of, again, we're really dividing up. We've got the volunteers, and they've come forward and they're ready to work.
That's fine. Yeah, I just haven't seen.
Yeah, and that's as
it's
of
a nice
March
setup.
23rd. Oh, thank you.
Thanks for doing that.
Thanks.
It is very nice.
Yeah, we have all of the renderings are in Google SketchUp, so those will be available, and we'll be posting more documents as they are put together.
The last comment that I had on it was that having that trail more adequately marked, or having it marked at all, is going to be such a big plus. But my aspirations is that can somehow tie into, because I think some other people have had some aspirations that there's a possibility that the proposal for the Cabela's has possibly said that they would theme that entire store.
I don't think we should get even in that particular discussion, frankly. I mean,
Towards the Oregon Trail, and if it does,
Yeah.
there's a very nice tie into that.
I think that because the trail is there, and because of I know that there was a historic board resolution in 2007 that essentially said that there would be some coordination with the Oregon Trail. I would hope that anything that that does take place there would have some connection with Oregon Trail theme. And we have, definitely will establish a placeholder, but we're not doing anything with that area as we originally intended.
any other comments? Question? Oh, you're calling the question. He's called the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Yeah.
Thank you very
This
much.
is still a discussion period of time. I do think this warrants, though, a discussion of policy. The deadline of, and you've been approved. You're fine.
Yeah.
When is the deadline of submission of applications for this? For these?
For this granting
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah. When was
It was
when
March
was
4th.
it? It was March 4th.
3 o'clock.
And when notification is actually given, I guess, Miss Benford, Benville, I'm sorry, Miss Benville, I don't call you Benaville anymore. Miss Benville had indicated that she gave some notification earlier on. I would suggest perhaps that when we have projects that have not been implemented, or we have no evidence that they've been implemented, perhaps a notification by appropriate staff be made perhaps a month before the deadline. It bothers me that a request would not have been submitted for an extension at the same time the deadline was. And so I think we ought to have some mechanism that kind of guarantees that extensions, in fact, have to meet the same deadline that new applications do. And I'm going to ask Michelle, if you don't mind me using first names, I'm going to go ahead and do it for everybody. Anybody object? Unless I forget your first name. And it can't, but then I might forget your last name. The other day I couldn't remember Jim DeCebo's name.
You were just trying to forget it.
No, I was rattled. All the motions were going between Rocky and Kathy back and forth, and those are the only names that were coming up. And when Jim came up with something, I just got completely discombobulated. Anyway, that's beside the point. Does somebody want to suggest a lead time that a notification is sent out prior to the deadline date You've indicated you did it at what time? When did you do it? Let them know?
For their project?
Yeah.
Well, Nancy and I had been in contact throughout the year, and even prior to last year's meeting. And I want to say the latest correspondence was March 16th.
That was after the deadline.
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
The break-off time, the notification point that you make is X number of days or weeks or something before that deadline, and if something for an extension is not requested by that time, then it's really not considered in our
Right.
process.
That's a good idea.
To deal with these kinds of, is that acceptable to everybody?
Yeah.
Would you have to, Michelle, would you suggest a timeline for that gives you enough time actually to do what you need to
Well,
do?
I would make it as the same, the extension as the same day as the deadline for the application.
No, but I'm talking about you letting them know that they have not expended any money.
Oh,
that they
yeah,
have
no,
not-
I can do that after the first of the year. I can do that the third quarter if you'd like. Any time will work for me.
Maybe January 1st is about
By January 1 or December
yeah,
31st.
something of that nature. Is that?
And then
is
make
that
a
acceptable?
deadline.
I don't know if we have
We
to
don't
vote on that
hereby-
as a policy or not, or we just accept that as a group, and we go ahead and implement that policy. So that kind of deal with this issue in the future.
Sounds good. I can do that.
I'll look for your guidance here, Michelle. Were there any other points of discussion that we needed to bring up before we start looking at these projects? We do have these reports that have been submitted, and projects already done for one thing.
Yes, we do.
I notice Commissioner Smith's raising his hand. Is there something you want to bring up?
Yeah, I will just say, and maybe you were leaning to that too. On the same topic of deadlines, there was one application that was turned in late. So we have to, I don't know if we want to discuss that
Sure,
before we get to that.
I think it's part of
And a
the
point of clarification on that, I was scheduled to be here the day those applications came in, and my
Right.
schedule got changed, so I was not here when the
Right.
applications.
And it wasn't that late. I mean, it was like 15 minutes, I think, or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
No,
And was that
16
was that
minutes.
the cause of the lateness? Is your absence? Or you're not being there? Was that what?
I would say not, but I don't know for sure. No. I mean,
Yep.
I think
There
sometimes
was
things
someone here at-
happen or whatever.
There was someone at City Hall, so it would have gotten stamped at the time.
Why the peculiar 3 o'clock?
We don't want to do it at 5
So
o'clock
sit-
when staff is trying to do their closing procedures. We do the 3 o'clock so they come in and the rest of the staff can take care of their closing operations at 5 o'clock, and there's not a rush.
Could I suggest if it is in fact on your desk the next morning, we could accept it?
Just make it in the
That's a
business
committee
day.
discussion.
I mean, is that problematic to you? Personally, I mean, does that?
Personally, no.
I mean, does it cause you any
It might
difficulty?
be to
No.
Denise.
Denise McGriff may come up and talk about process. Are you going to talk about process?
I certainly am.
Well, and since we only meet once a year, it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we can clarify all that.
As many of you know, I work for a government entity, and we have many applications that are due at a certain time. If they are 1 minute late, as has been known in the trade, they are not accepted. So I guess I don't even know who it is that's late. I just saw your little stars. But if you say that it's a 3 p.m. deadline and it's not here, then it's a 3 p.m. deadline. It didn't say 3:15, 3:16, or 3:20. So you guys need to, as long as I've been applying for these and before that, there is a very specific deadline. If you were doing a request for proposal with a consultant and you said the deadline was 2:30 and they said, oh, I'm sorry, I was in traffic and I didn't get here till 2:35, I guess if you're going to have a deadline, then either stick to it or have no deadline. Our application was turned in. She wasn't here. That didn't matter. We knew it would be date stamped, and that's what you kind of got. That's what you guys kind of have to either follow or you just throw it all out. I have nothing against the applicant, but
You don't even know who it is.
if the deadline is 3 p.m., then it's either 3 p.m. It was advertised as 3 p.m., so I'm just making a point of clarification.
Thank you.
I believe there might be a third possibility, which would be to really that application is considered last, kind of in last place for funds behind the ones that were.
But I don't know how our process would work there because we have done the ratings, and that maybe there's a mechanism in looking at what the average ratings are that we may in some fashion consider that fact if we've got an equal ranking, for example, something of that nature.
Tiebreaker.
The tiebreaker, yeah, something like that. Okay.
Not a bad idea.
Were there any other issues and discussion items that we had that you wish to bring forward, or any comments about the exit reports of the projects that have been completed?
Just a point of note, I did also receive an exit report from the Praxis group for the Teddy Bear Parade, and it was not noted on the financial form under tab 5. So,
And it's not in our.
and it's not in
It's
there.
in our packet. Okay. It probably is
I'll
not
be
a
happy to
major
forward
issue.
that to you.
Yeah, it's not probably not a major issue that is not received at this point because they are not making an application here.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, Michelle. Is there when they're filling out their exit reports, is there a similar form that they use to the one that they applied? Because when I was looking at these exit reports, I mean, they're just all over the board as to their thoroughness, their effectiveness, their format for our analysis and for future trustees' analysis. I would think that if they were in the same format, like the applications all being in the same format, made it a whole lot easier to do some cross-analysis. But the exit reports, to evaluate them was kind of, you really had to hunt and peck on them.
There's a description of what they need to
it's
include
basically a
in it.
description,
and-
a budget,
But
how
that's
many
about it.
folks
It's
it
pretty
brought in.
general.
There's no
Um,
form.
No specific format.
I'd like to see a format, just to make them more easy to evaluate.
Somebody's going to have to work up the format. And if we're going to do that, we would probably have to have a subsequent meeting to agree upon the format. I doubt if we're going to want to sit here and create one.
No.
Do we want to give staff a direction to come up with a draft format initially, or how do you want to approach that?
And then they could possibly report back to a task force. I mean, if one or two people on this committee could look at a proposal, because we only meet once a year.
Yeah, I know.
The process is really protracted.
Yeah. Yes.
How do we come up with the application? The format of the application?
The format of the application has pretty much been in place for many, many years.
Yeah.
2 years ago, no, gosh, it's been 3 years ago now, we did a second work session meeting mid-year, kind of October time, where we doubled up both OCCIT and Metro Enhancement and reviewed applications, reviewed bylaws, reviewed all the everything in place, and made a few changes at that point. And those changes are represented in the applications that you see today. But they were pretty nominal.
Nobody else has an issue with it. I won't say any more about it, but I just thought that it would be nice if it were a little more consistent.
I mean, do you want to propose that somebody step forward and actually work on a form?
Well, I'd appreciate it, but I don't know if I would want to. I'm not going to be on it.
Well, nor am I. but the point is, we probably could instruct staff to pursue it and perhaps come up with a draft form. But if we're going to do that, I think we'd have to meet prior to our normal meeting for accepting it, to accept a format. And that format would have to be created soon enough that the people who are doing the next set of exit reports are going to be able to follow the format.
Let me follow that up with asking for an opinion of staff. Do you think that would be a big job? Do you think it would be worthwhile? I think it would be worthwhile. I'm just asking. I don't want to put any more work on staff than need be.
No, it wouldn't be a big job, but it would, like Mayor Neely said, require a review meeting prior to. And if folks are willing to come back at some point in the future and stamp or not stamp.
Could that be done through email? I mean, could a proposed draft be sent to all the members just for, what do you think, comments and like that, and build a consensus through email rather than have
Well, it could be done through email, and we could, the applications, let's put it this way, we could do it through email, get feedback, and then next March's meeting, review it and approve it, but it wouldn't go into place until 2013,
I'm okay with that process.
unless you do a mid-year meeting.
Okay.
That's fine.
The budget that covers your position will enable you to spend time on this project. I guess that's the direction we get, and if there's no objections, I think you've got a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to require us all, when we get the email, to actually get our comments in.
Whoever doesn't respond has
Tough.
no room to
They
crack.
better not complain at the next meeting.
Exactly.
Okay. Is that agreeable with everybody?
Yes.
Good. Okay.
That's good.
Any other discussion items that we wish to pursue?
Oh, I just have one clarification. If we find this format is working well with the computers, which is new to us this year, do you want me to still continue doing the physical notebook for your review, or is that not of the point of interest at this point?
No.
No what?
No.
No notebook.
No notebook.
No notebook?
And would we just get an electronic copy of all of this?
Electronic
Now,
copy?
does everybody on the committee have access to email and are able to download whatever the electronic what would be
It would probably be a PDF file.
a PDF
Multiple
file?
PDF files.
I like the notebook.
You like the notebook? I think we could do what we did on the commission earlier, is to say that if those people that are satisfied with getting it an email can do it. I think, I don't know if this is the same group we're going to have next year. I don't know what positions are becoming available, but I think right now, I think you need to indicate whether you want it in notebook form or not.
And we don't have to do that now. As we come through to next year, at
Okay.
the end of the year, I can review with everybody and they can let me know.
Okay, very good.
But I just wanted to kind of get a feel
Yeah.
if we stay with the old standard notebook or not.
No, we're going away from paper.
Yes. No, that's fine.
One of your goals.
Yes.
Just one last thing. I don't think were we going to make a decision on the deadline, or were we just going to talk about it and move on and start looking at grants and worry about it later?
Dragging up old stuff.
I mean, we had a discussion, but I don't know if we decided how we're going to.
Well, that's a good point. I guess I didn't see anybody objecting to that notion at that point, but
Okay.
we can.
So
We're agreed that the deadline has to be met for anybody that's asking for an extension. Are we agreed to that?
No, I'm
No,
talking
for the
about
whole-
the deadline for
The application, the
the
current
applications
application.
that we got. This.
So if it's 16 minutes late, we don't take it.
Oh, that.
The one that Denise came up and talked about. And
We don't work for the same government or entity
That's right.
that Denise works for, and I think that's completely a decision of the commission.
Yes.
but we didn't make a decision.
Yeah. So do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we should probably have a deadline in the future. I don't think it should be a
We have a
retroactive.
deadline. It's 3
We do
o'clock.
have a deadline
3 o'clock.
set. So do you want to? That's the question. Do you want to, the question I think is, do we want to accept the document that came in 15 minutes late?
I move that we accept the document.
Yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not. I'll say no.
Okay. No, we have.
So can we do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, you and me. We've taken our vote, but we can redo our motion if we want to.
In lieu of the vote on the extension that wasn't filed,
Right.
that maybe you decide that 16 minutes isn't that big of a deal.
That's. I think that's what the
That's what
decision
we're.
was.
Okay. That's the decision.
I think that's what the decision was. I'm not sure that we want to make the statement that we won't do that again if it's
Right.
15 minutes late.
Right.
We're just simply accepting one proposal.
Yes.
And we haven't set a policy
So,
that.
Kathy, you want to state a motion so that it says
What am I moving for?
that we will accept
That
the
we will
application.
accept the application that was 16 minutes late.
Yes.
And I
And
thought
I
that was,
second.
and I think that's what the motion was. Just clarifying it.
Are we going
And we're going to pull it
Yeah.
because we apparently we're not unanimous. So,
I only heard a few.
yeah,
yeses.
we'll pull it.
Okay, first names?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Buddy,
Yes.
Rocky,
No.
Doug,
Yes?
Kathy,
Yes.
Wendell,
Yes.
Yes.
No.
three noes, but we have 4 yeses.
Okay.
Passes.
All right.
Could I make a motion,
Yes?
just so the clarity in the future, that henceforth, the deadline for applications will be a precise one,
I'll second.
and that applications after, any time after the stated time will be rejected?
And I hate to say it, but I think we had this discussion last year.
Was it in form of a motion? That was.
I would second that motion.
Well, we have the minutes. We'll have the minutes.
Don't we have the minutes in the packet from
Yeah.
last year?
It wasn't in there.
It wasn't in the minutes?
Yeah, so now a formal motion is being put forward.
Yeah.
And
I would
that's fine.
second the motion.
We have
I
the.
would love to make an amendment, if you'd be amenable to this, is that the cutoff be the end of business day on a given date, rather than a particular time during the day. Which would mean that if you got it the next morning, when
That's
you
true.
came in, it would be there.
Unless she was here until 5 minutes after 5, in which case she would be rejected. But,
It's end of business.
yeah, that's the end of the business day.
If it was
And it turned out she wasn't here and it didn't get,
If it was date stamped March 4th,
no. Okay,
5 p.m.
By 5 p.m.
I'll accept it as a friendly amendment.
okay. Call the roll if you would.
So Jim was the first and William the second on that.
That's correct.
So we
Wendell.
received it.
Well, go
Seconded
ahead.
it, but
William, Wendell.
W, just scribble a W.
W's. Got it. Thank you.
Go ahead and poll.
Are we going to individually poll on this one?
Yeah, we will too.
Okay. We'll start in the middle then. Wendell.
Aye.
Kathy.
Yes.
Doug.
Yes?
Rocky.
Aye.
Eddie.
Aye.
William.
Yes.
Anthony. Jim.
yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at what the rankings are of the projects. Is that
I
correct?
saw Mr. Wimmer came in. Did we want to talk about the item?
Oh, Mr. Wimmer, do you want to come forward? You're specifically slated. Yeah. Mr. Wimmer, will you please come forward? We had an agenda item that was specifically geared to you.
Funding forecast.
Yeah, and Michelle passed on it, and so therefore you're the person.
Did you have a question?
Well, before we had a forecast question, and I don't know whether that forecast was forecast for the future or what that represented.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I'm not.
On the agenda,
On
it
the
says you're
agenda.
making a presentation about
Funding forecast.
yeah.
Funding forecast.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, this, like I sort of dug in at about $50,000 a year from basically one hotel, the Rivershore Hotel, and and we have about $30,000 to begin the year with. So, you go give more than $50,000, you're going to be eroding at the $30-some thousand fund balance, or you give less, it'll grow. So, right now, I was suggesting $45,000, so it would grow from $32,000 to $37,000.
This is essentially an ending balance that we have from revenues that have been collected at this point.
Right. I'm predicting we're going to start the year with $32,000, and I'm also suggested you maybe grant $45,000, so then you'd have $5,000 more at the end of the year, so $37,000. But in theory, you could give 45 and 37 is what 82,000 or something, would be have zero to start next year. Then you wouldn't be able to get more than 50,000 if you want to just maintain the zero until you get some more hotels. So.
And I guess the question is, do we want them to work with the 45,000?
Yes.
Is this a unanimous vote that we're going to work with the 45,000 limit, and we're not going to dip into future revenues coming in?
Right.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
That was easy. Once I figured out what the question was.
So you're going to tell us where our spreadsheet is, right? Is that going to come up behind us?
It will.
Okay, very good. So we got to those people that are not aware of it. To the left of your monitor is a switch, and you push the switch to your left, and on your screen will come up the spreadsheet in terms of the rankings.
On the left. With the toggle switch. Where is it, please?
And the audience can see it on the screen behind us. So
I like
we're
looking
looking
at big.
we're looking at, if we're looking forward, it isn't because we're not paying attention. We have this on our screen as well. Okay. All right.
No toggle switches on these two pieces.
And it appears that these have been ranked at this point. The averages have been ranked.
Sorry, yes, they've been ranked and sorted.
Okay.
Wait, there's a 0 on one of mine, which is not accurate.
Okay.
I can't. Can
He
you give me- I know I didn't give him
he
a
has
0.
copies of his, so he will go ahead and.
That's Mount Pleasant. It was 2.5. I don't know if that makes any effect on it, but.
Oh, I got a treat tonight. But I can explain how we did it.
Good lad.
So.
It made a difference.
Did it?
Not on the overall.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get a sort on average, and we'll get them resorted here. Okay.
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 I guess there's several approaches to it. We could start at the bottom. Do we have a running total?
Yeah.
The running total
Of
is
56.
No, actually a running total of the numbers from top to bottom. That is.
No, we do not, because there's, if you have a tentative award, I can put that amount in, which would be the maximum amount, and give you a running total at that point.
Okay. Oh, okay, so.
Okay.
Just point to it.
So your running total is in column N.
All right, very good. And so we see the current cutoff is at Clackamas County Historical Society, where which then exceed the next one up is below the 45, and Clackamas County Historical Society's ranking was above the 45. All right. Does somebody? I could start off just by making a couple of comments in terms of my ranking. Not all, but several of the fours actually did not, in some cases, reflected not seeing letters of support. Many of them showed letters of support, and one of the categories was. And I didn't keep my sheets, but one of the categories, I think was the last category. Can I look at your sheet?
This is on this?
Yeah. One of the categories here was project creates or enhances partnerships in the community. I don't know how to assess that, but one of the things that comes into the potential assessment is to see if there were letters of support from other organizations or something.
Yes.
Some of my fours, not all of them, reflected that particular fact. And I just wanted to make a comment that, and I got my form back here. That affected some of the fours that I had. Having said that, a couple of them one of them did actually have a letter of support was the McLaughlin Memorial Association's request, and there was a letter of support from a neighborhood association. the Clackamas County Historical Society, I believe, and I have to look back, but I don't believe it had any specific letters of support in it. My feeling, however, is these particular heritage entities are struggling, and
There were 3 letters of support for that one.
which one? Clackamas County Historical Society?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that
Oh,
was-
yeah, there was a lot.
Excuse me.
There was 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. That was the wrong one to look at, I guess. In any case, that was one of my bases of support.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Does anybody else want to make a comment on their individual rankings at this particular point?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Here again, my decision-making process was dealing with the putting money, if you would, all of these were important ventures. I see several of them having an immediate impact on Oregon City for a short time. And I believe that the heritage community now is at a point as it's starting to rebuild, and we can bring 3,000 people a weekend to Oregon City, or we get 150 people, 200 people spread throughout the year, every day of the month, into the various attractions in Oregon City. And here again, it's slowing the money down and spreading it out over the year. That's why I went, that's why my 5 decisions were centered around, many of them.
Yes, Mr. Smith. Rocky.
My students don't even call me Mr. Smith. So.
Do they call you Commissioner Smith?
Sometimes. Okay, so what I like to try to split it out. We rank them 1 to 5. So and our criteria is actually numbered 1 through. We have 4 set criteria, and then some guidelines that were set in place when the OCCIT was created. But in terms of our actual criteria, we have 4 specific ones. But since it's the money that we get to dispense comes from hotel tax, I basically, when I rank these, give 1 point for each of the criteria on the evaluation and 2 points for the second criteria, which is bringing visitors into the community. So that the 2 points was focused specifically on actually bringing people into Oregon City. So that's how I did it. But occasionally, we all kind of break that up our own way. And sometimes you'll see, well, one of these criteria maybe is tackled more by one project, and so you can kind of, set aside. But that was my general guidelines for that.
Any others? Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I approached these from the standpoint of the broadest appeal. The artists, the First City, and the antiques thing, the antiques fair. I thought it would have the broadest appeal to bring people in from the surrounding area, and hopefully some of those people, a percentage of those people will be, people who will come back and visit the historic side, the heritage sites, and but I think that before I moved here several years ago, I didn't consider Oregon City a destination, and certainly with the new Cabela's coming in, hopefully, and we can do what we can to let people know that we're here, and
Right.
it's a fun place to visit. And so, approaching it from those types of things, that an antique show. I mean, how many people want to go to an antique show? Lots. I'm willing to drive a half hour to get there.
Yes. Mr. Gifford. He had those up here.
Michelle, you don't happen to have that spreadsheet that I made up there?
I do. Not on the computer, not on electronic. Sorry.
I understand that these are all subjective decisions that we make on these, but I'm a pretty objective guy about a lot of things, and kind of a numbers wonk too. But so I was trying to find what objective criteria I could place on these as well. And two of them that I chose was the ratio between how much the applicant requested and how much was going to be shown in kind. And there's quite a disparity. And so I showed it as a ratio, and then I showed a bar chart out here. And when some of them are a ratio of, like the Rose Farm is only 0.28. I mean, Great Scott, they're willing to contribute almost 4 times as much as they're asking for. That's significant to me, as opposed to one of them all the way up to 0.78, where they're not even contributing 3/4 of what they're asking for.
Right.
So that was one basis of that. The second, what I was trying to be objective about was if I wanted, and I also looked at the total amount of funding. The total amount of funding is also, there's an enormous disparity there as well compared to what they asked for. So what I tried to go back and do was imagine what if we didn't fund them at 100%, all of them.
Right.
For example, and imagine, help me with this process here, but I don't know. I imagine that we can adjust how much we award to each one of these applicants.
Yes. Yes.
For example, if we wanted to award one of them half of what they asked for and encourage them to come back next year for the other half, if it's a longer-term project, maybe that would be acceptable.
Yes.
So what I did was go through and imagine how much I would fund these are on as a percentage. Whether it's 100% or 90% or 75% or 50%, which is why I wound up with a couple of funny numbers in there, 3.8 and so on. And then I multiplied that times 5. If the funding was 100%, then they would get a 5. If the funding was 90%, then they would get a 4.5 and so on. And that's where I came up with the numbers on those. But that was just my attempt at trying to objectify some of the applications.
Yes, I believe Kathy was next.
Well, I used a combination of those two. I looked at how much was being raised in kind as opposed to what they were asking for. And then the second I used is because I work in Portland and I'm becoming known as the Oregon City poster child or something. I don't know. People are coming to me saying, what's going on this weekend? And I kind of look at the reaction I get from people and how many people actually physically come to town because of what I'm telling them is going on. So I looked at the numbers of people that I saw respond from Portland and kind of plugged that into my considerations for these.
Mr. Smith, I think I saw you next.
Just back to my comments earlier. When I looked at this, we started with the base amount of money thinking that, okay, we're about $11,750 short of fulfilling everyone's request at full. Okay? So I then looked at the projects that have come to us a second time in a row. I went to those. I looked at, are they asking for more than they did last year, or are they asking for the same? I found that all of them were asked, there was, I think, one request that came to us last year that stayed the same, and that was the antique fair. There was the request for the McLaughlin Memorial Association went up, but it went up a couple $100. And then the other 3 that have come to us doubled. And so when I looked at the doubling of those, it equaled about $14,000. So even if we take those 3 events, First City Art Walk, First City Celebration, Cruise to Downtown, and we fund them fully what they requested last year, even if we had added $1,000 to that, this year, we'd grant all of our projects fully. And so I'd like to see us work on that. I think that all of these projects are extremely great. There's only one that falls to the bottom, and it's the one that fell to the bottom for all of us, and it was just mainly because it doesn't have the broader appeal. You know, you can see it's very similar to the request. Well, it's the same group for the cruise downtown, but putting a cruise in an event, on Main Street versus behind the elementary school is a far different draw. So, even if we did kind of start from where I'm kind of looking here, I don't even really know. I guess with that we could still fund that fully $3,000 too, but I wouldn't mind cutting back a little bit on that because I don't think it's as much of an impact. But I don't want to demean really these three events that have asked for double money, because these are probably the most important events in our city. So I don't want you to confuse what I'm saying with that. They most definitely are some of our best events. But we also need to kind of, play with that a little bit. So I've never liked the idea, and I've never applied for a grant where I assumed that I was always going to get the full amount. And I think it's unfortunate if we get in a position where everyone thinks that they can apply and they're automatically going to get the full amount and everyone's going to get funded, because it doesn't always happen. And sometimes we get lucky here by being able to do that. So I think, even if we're fair by saying, yes, let's give them exactly what we gave them last year for those events, even if we throw, an extra $1,000 or $1,500 in there, I think we could still fund everybody. So that's my proposal.
Any other comments? I'm from the group here. Yes, William.
I'm just trying to process what he's thinking on this, which basically sounds okay on the surface, but what it sounds to me like is that then you would be taking some off of possibly the most successful events, with potentially the largest ROI on those events, and giving it perhaps to an event that may not have as significant a response. Or I made up another little spreadsheet of just basically.
Well, we should pass this on.
But if I was looking at objectives as the number of objectives, the number of visitors as trying to be an objective criteria, and the number of visitors for some of these things is pretty consistently in the thousands. And even the Mount Pleasant event was proposing 2,000 visitors. Now maybe that's not citywide, but 2,000 visitors to the city seems to me like that's going to have some off-spin, because those people are going to have to eat someplace. They're going to have to go someplace, and they'll spend money while they're in the city. Perhaps not to the same extent as the downtown car show, but I would lobby a little stronger for the Mount Pleasant show, just because 2,000 people is a lot of people to bring to the city for a day.
I guess what we'll do at this point, we can invite people to speak to their projects if you so wish. I saw some hands go up. Does the commission agree to having people speak to their projects?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody that wishes to speak to their project, come forward, please. And introduce yourself and your project.
I'm Laura Rambo, and the project was First Friday Sounds of Downtown, Three Rivers Artists Guild. One of the things that I would like to address is that was pointed out that we were one of the grant application folks who had doubled their request. We're asking for funding for two separate deals here combined into one project. One is a First Friday art walk, One is the Sounds of Downtown. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that it is 2 projects. Also, I read a saying someplace that I kind of wanted to repeat here, and I think it perhaps will help clarify some things. And I don't know where I got this. I copied it from someplace. The statement is, I've come to realize that in towns lacking the smaller, more intimate retail spaces, you must generate a liveliness, thus creating, on a regular basis, activities that gives the community and visitors alike reasons to come into your community. The grant that we have before you with musicians and artists brings visitors who will be eating, drinking, and seeing a community that's going to be engaging in activities that combines both commerce and culture with a venue that is really energized by the presence of musicians. We create downtown a real energy when we have First Fridays. With the addition of music, it provides even more energy. People stay longer. It's just a more lively atmosphere. And perhaps we were lacking with letters of support, but we had a major retail outlet downtown come to Three Rivers Artists Guild and ask us over the winter months to put together something that would bring visitors down to Main Street. Three Rivers Artists Guild for the month of February, March, and April conducted First Saturdays in coordination with the farmers market. And I must say that it was most successful, and we did get visitors to Main Street. I just want you to know that I think that the First Friday Sounds of Downtown, the Sounds of Downtown, and the Art Walk are a real viable option for not only the community but for visitors to come to Oregon City and experience a Main Street that is really becoming a positive, safe place for people to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do I have any recommendations as to how to proceed? I am going to make an initial suggestion that we come back to Trick and Racy Car Club Mount Pleasant at a later point and at the initial stage, excluded from the decision making. There are a couple of people that ranked it high, but in general it has a rather low ranking. Comment?
I want to know, as far as Rocky's suggestion, because I think we've done this analysis in the past, and asking the applicants whether or not if we removed a level of funds from their project as they've put it forth, they couldn't do it. But before we start reallocating money, I think it's a crucial question to those applicants who have scored high in particular, whether if we did allocate money away from them, their project just wouldn't be possible, because that's been a consideration in the past.
Absolutely.
We could call them up in order if they have representatives here. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Rocky. I don't know why it's so differential.
Much more important than I am. Okay, so, again, I'll mention that my comments on this have nothing to do with whether or not these events are great or not. There's no doubt, or I wouldn't have ranked them as high as I did. So in regards to putting the money where the most visitors are, I think that's an adequate statement too. But if you look on the applications, the biggest event is the Antique Fair. Brings in the most people. Since 2007, they have come to us for money. Every year, lower amounts. Because the idea of this funding source is to get projects started. And hopefully they're projects that sustain themselves. and eventually wean off of having to come here year after year to support these great projects. So we're still funding, we've been funding the Antique Fair for years and years and years, but they've made a real deliberate effort to try to come year after year with a little less of a request, because they're starting to build their own support for their event, and that's the highest attended event that came to us. So I don't think that argument necessarily negates my point of view on looking at this. So I just think we need to, and I'm not even opposed to giving grants higher and higher, but doubling it is huge. And I will concede that with the event here, it's really two different events, so maybe that's not necessarily probably applicable, but we got to be careful with that, because it just.
Yeah.
Well, I might. Go ahead. Go ahead, William.
I also want to concur with Rocky about my philosophy towards grants is that there ought to be something that they are kicking something off rather than sustaining them. It's not just a trough that you can keep coming back to and back to and back to. If we shaved off, just hypothetically, the photography exhibit. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't see any estimate as to how many visitors that was going to bring in. I wish that they had come up with some proposed number of attendees that would, how many people, how many feet on the street could we get from something like that? Well, I think that's a swell idea, right. But it's difficult to really evaluate the ROI on that. But if that were trimmed from $12,000, which is a huge amount of money, if that were trimmed $3,000, you'd be able to have the 2,000 members coming to Mount Pleasant.
Yes.
Right.
Fully funded.
I wanted to actually talk about that specific project.
The pair of those?
Well, the Clackamas County Historical Society request. And when I looked at that request, I do agree that it probably isn't going to bring as many people in. But one of the things that stuck out to me on that one was the other criteria, which is, will this project benefit Oregon City? I don't necessarily think that the final exhibit is going to benefit Oregon City as much as the archiving, et cetera, of the history of this entire county. So I actually don't want to shave anything off of that, because I think that is such a unique project, and I think that it does a huge benefit for Oregon City that actually will benefit Oregon City and the county generations to come, because it's really archiving that historic. The exhibit is a bonus of that hopefully will then bring people back into the museum. So I see that
then, with
maybe
phase one doing the archiving, and
yeah.
phase two after you've got it all done.
Definitely, and I guess that's a question we can ask.
Can I speak to this?
Yeah, since it's brought up, yes.
Okay. I'm Lisa Christopher, and I'm the Executive Director for the Clackamas County Historical Society. And, I have to support fully what Rocky is saying to fund it in full, of course. This is a tricky grant request for us. We haven't been to you in years, and it's a really important exhibit to fund because it will be a huge shot in the arm for the organization itself, which I'm sure you know has struggled to get back on its feet. Yes. And in the last 6 or 8 months, we've made huge strides, and we really need your support. And if I may say, the city, to the best of my knowledge, does not fund the organization in any other way, and having the exhibit at the museum would certainly give the city's trolley riders a destination to go to and spend some time. So it would work in Congress with what the city is doing, and it is something that we're looking forward to doing because of the archiving, but also because next year is our 60th anniversary, and that's going to be sweeter than any other anniversary we've ever had because we've been through so much. And I was hoping that the city would fund it so that we have another reason to bring people into the museum, whereas many of our exhibits have not been refreshed in 5 years or more. So it's really very, very crucial to have a new exhibit for many, many reasons.
Specific comments this time, Mr. Messiah. Jim.
Looking at how things broke on the spreadsheet, if I were to put forth a suggestion on how to approach this, my recommendation, since the Historical Society proposal at least partly met the threshold, in that the $45,000 level is about what would be about half of its funding, I think, or a little more. My recommendation would be to find a way to reallocate the ones above it, because it wouldn't take much to fund it at its full level. And I'm just given past the way we've done it in the past, and that there have been proposals that really couldn't do it without the amount that they asked for. I would limit it to those projects that at least achieved the $45,000 threshold, either in whole and part. The last two projects, they are good projects. The one at Mount Pleasant, I struggled with that one because it was duplicative of the one downtown. The billboard project, when I reviewed that application, it was just kind of, it was just kind of undeveloped in specifics and in concept. So I think that would be my recommendation, because I don't see, to reach the requested funding amount for the Historical Society, I don't think they would take that much reallocation from the ones above it. And then we'd be able to fund every one of them that at least got to the, in whole or in part, the $45,000 limit.
I think it was Jim that made the suggestion that we might start at the top. We may request representatives, if they're here, to ask them what would be the effect of reducing their amounts by such a percentage. And I think that was a recommendation you just put forward a bit ago.
And I do want to also echo Rocky's comments, because when I did look at the Historical Society application, it really did jump out, both in its originality and its thoroughness, and just the importance as far as kind of like safeguarding and stewarding the heritage that the project reflects.
Yes.
I have one more comment. On this one, I gave it a low rating simply because I think that the project is important, but the availability, the public, is not good.
Well, that's true too. I
and
thought
so-
about that too.
Yeah, that really influenced my
I know.
decision.
And it's not due to open until November
No.
14th.
Well,
We're just go ahead.
And in addition,
We're having a discussion.
Yeah.
Hold off for our discussion here, and then I'll call people back up.
and in addition to that I got the impression that's a semi-permanent exhibit. I mean, it's not going to be up for a year and then torn down. I mean,
It'll
it
be
might
up for
it'll
a
be
long time.
I mean, so this
And we're working towards being open for more regular hours.
Right. Okay.
We're taking steps towards that.
I have a question for the speaker.
Yeah. Yes.
Under our grant charter, there's certain things that we are allowed to direct the money towards. And the one that I can find is increasing that applies in this instance, is increasing the significance of the historical heritage of the city. Could you address how this project will do that?
Well, many of the negatives and photographs that we have in the collection are of the city. And so we'll be able to document what the city once looked like versus what it looks like now and in the future. So that is important. to do for history's sake.
Well, I understand that the preservation is important, but how will it increase? It says increasing the significance of the historical heritage.
By showing what it once looked like and comparing it to what it does now, you can have a perspective, and you can share that and enhance your community's image with those.
I'd kind of like to give a great example of that, because I think most of the photographs were obtained from the Clackamas Historical Society, and that is the elevator, where actually you walk around the elevator and you'll see the images changing from usually one structure to the falls to another structure. I think most of those, if not all of them, are actually of the same location, and you see what it was, what it is. And I think when you tell people that are coming through what that represents, I see them going around a couple more times, and it's an example of, yes, this is in the museum, but we really don't know how that will be taken out and have broader implications, as was the case in the elevator exhibit, and it's a great exhibit.
That's very true, and I hate to be cliche, but a picture's worth 1,000 words, and you could sit there and talk to someone about what the city once was and what it looked like, but when you can show them a photograph and they can compare it to the things they know, that's something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yes.
Two things. One is I want to be clearly understood that I am very supportive of the project. One of the reasons that I had what it looks like I ranked it low was because I was imagining a smaller percentage of the total grant. That if and then my ranking reflected a smaller allocation of that. So if we shaved some of the money off of that, to me the ranking went down. But I do want to say that I am supportive of the project, and I think it would be very good for Oregon City. I just don't know that it needs to be. I mean, $12,000 is a big chunk out of a $45,000 budget.
That I can understand your perspective, but we haven't come to you in many years, and other organizations have come to you for the last 4 or 5 years and asked for $3,000 each.
Yeah.
So when you compare that with over time,
That's correct.
And they don't own the entire archives of this county's history.
Yes. Secondly, the second point that I wanted to make was commenting about the Downtown Business Coalition's project. I thought that it was adequately spec'd out. It's just that I think that advertising is such a hard thing to calculate an ROI on. How many more visitors would billboards bring in? Boy, that's a hard thing to measure.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to project.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the difficulties that I had with that, is that it's just really difficult to measure how effective it's going to be.
Could I be reminded,
Yeah,
Rocky,
go ahead.
which ones are the organization that have asked for double from last year?
First, well, with clarification, I guess I won't mention First City Art Walk, which is divided into two. It was $4,000 this year and $9,000 this year. So basically, it would be half and half for the two events if we look at it that way. First City Celebration went from $5,000 last year to $12,800 they're asking this year, and the cruise to downtown from $4,000 to $7,900.
I think at that point, what I would want to know, and maybe we can invite Lloyd up, what is the basis that First City Celebration is asking for that increase?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me a 1-2.
Lloyd, well, okay. You're not the spokesperson, but I was going to put a question to you because certain projects that I think you're more directly involved. You wrote letters of support for maybe not quite, but most of them that are downtown. I don't recollect one for the antique fair. I don't know that you gave a letter, but I think your perspective on these downtown ones in general will be somewhat valuable in the discussion.
Let me hit that first, because that might shape the fellow who's in charge of the coordinator for the First City Celebration for Main Street is. didn't get one to the chamber because they didn't ask me until about 20 minutes. How long? Half hour? I did not have time. Rather late notice. It's certainly an event that brings a lot of activity downtown.
Yeah.
We like it.
Yeah.
And then also, I do know on the Business Coalition, because those gentlemen talked to me about their project, we could probably find some other ways to get that initiative done. This seems like a good one, but I don't want this group knocking your head silly trying to find how to fund everything. If there's some standout projects and we can fund one more, maybe that's the way to look at it, in fact.
Yeah, I was going to just speak to the First City Celebration, and after just taking a quick look at our budget, again, realizing that this is our second year and we are asking for some more money. After you go through a first-time event and you kind of learn the scope, there really are some other additional costs that maybe you didn't anticipate that first year. We are working on making it a sustainable event, and we are going after more sponsorships, but this is still an economic climate where that is not the easiest thing to do. But, after taking a quick look at our budget, we would definitely be able to take off, $1,000, allocate that towards, I guess it's not my job to allocate it, but I would, if I could make a suggestion like that, then to go help fund that Clackamas County Historical Society project. I think that it is important to look at your average and your rankings in funding the projects, and maybe not trying to fund everything, and maybe not everything fully even. And I would also suggest, I'm not sure exactly what the kind of the vote earlier to extend the money to the project from Park Place, was it? But maybe even if that money, if you feel needs to be allocated towards a little bit, if we're taking a little bit off everything. So I don't know, I'm just saying that maybe not everything needs to be fully funded in order to have the most bang for the buck and really make these events and exhibits truly meaningful and do what they're intended to do for the city.
I'm going to make a suggestion. As if people come forward and suggest a certain amount be removed, let's go ahead to do that at this moment and see how that affects
I've
it.
just done that.
Yeah.
And this is just an opening salvo, and I'm sure it can be changed. But I just did a quick thumbnail analysis because I think the Historical Society is about 5,000 short of what it needs right now.
Yeah. But what I'm suggesting is it be done on the screen by Michelle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so she's suggesting. I got to get to where I'm supposed to be.
So, Lloyd, you were suggesting that the Business Coalition could be funded elsewhere?
I think it's a fun project, but I would encourage you not to kill yourselves or not get all silly trying to fund if your pay line, that's what my wife calls it in her industry, if the pay line's about there and you can get close to hitting that pay line, which is where the Historical Society is, that's good. I know the gentleman at the Business Coalition, we can try and find matching funds to do that advertising some other way. It's not a for sure thing, but I can help him with that. I can help him find some of those other sources.
Is anybody in the audience
No.
with that application? No? Okay.
And may I also circle back to your other question, some of the other events, the car show, my understanding is they are asking for more because we think we can pull out a lot more cars in a bigger crowd this year and be more successful, but that takes a little more investment. So that's probably why they're asking for more. Downtown, you got a good roster of great things that are going to bring people to Oregon City, and we're happy to host those things.
Yes.
Anything else for?
I have a question. On the, because I think some of the ratings were rated based on, William, I think you were saying you rated some based on their matching. Is that right?
In kind.
Square root of visitors times matching funds.
Okay, so I guess this question might have something in the proposal for the First City celebration. There's $4,800 as a media sponsor, which all the way through this, to me, read as an in-kind sponsorship for advertising. But in the budget, it's saying $4,800 cash.
Well,
so that goes in the other column, right?
Estimated.
Yeah. How do you want to rank the fact that someone's cutting us a check for advertising? It's not
Right, but if we're matching in-kind versus cash matches, that makes a big difference.
If you're ranking it that way, good,
right.
Good point.
So,
I guess I have one other point, and I don't want to be a stickler on it, but
you will.
yeah, well, the good people producing the first city celebration are going to give up some funding and not hit their peak. The Clackamas County Historical Society might not get full funding either if we're giving up funding, right? You need to be willing to admit that you could do as much with less.
I can't say.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
I don't think so, Lloyd, because it's not the same project, and they haven't asked. We've already had that discussion up here.
So, yeah, I guess that's what you're saying. Yeah, okay, I got you. All right. So, any other questions for me and what I know about what happened in downtown?
Well, I'm going to suggest you stay where you are, and when we go through the downtown projects, that you may want to make some comments too. Do we want to invite now the OC Chamber of Commerce to come up? I don't see anybody saying no, but or yes, but I would like to invite them, the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce. And what was the reduction, Rocky?
What?
From last year, the reduction for the Oregon City Chamber?
They were asking for the same. Yeah, same exact.
Right. And so, what would happen if we knocked off 500?
We could handle that. Actually, our goal this year is to try to rebuild our vendors. We've grown the crowd every year, but due to the economy, we've dropped vendors, which affects our income.
Right.
It's been harder to find sponsors, so.
Yeah.
But 500 would not be an issue.
Okay, let's go ahead. And Michelle, I'm going to suggest you sit there unless there's a reason you have to be at that monitor. Because we're going to have you running back and forth.
Yeah, I know. This computer is set up for the spreadsheet.
Right.
And I don't have to, as long as.
I can do it. I'll switch over
you keep her hands off of that keyboard.
He's going to do all this little magic to it.
Okay. Okay.
That's just thinking.
Do we have a representative from Tricky and Racy Car Club? You want to come up here? This is another downtown event. Downtown.
The downtown.
At this point, we're going down the list here.
Okay, I'm Mike Sims. I'm the coordinator for the Downtown Car Show.
Mm-hmm.
We were fairly successful last year, and we expect to be more successful this year because of the rescheduling the event to not conflict with other events in the area. And we've learned from last year. And so our optimum budget that we presented, the car club, we've already placed 2 paid advertisements and about 15 unpaid advertisements in the car literature. We can get the cars downtown. What we need help with is getting spectators. And for that, we need to do advertising like we did last year in the Oregon City News and other places where we have to pay. And so we can certainly give up a few dollars. I would say we could cut our advertising budget by $500. We think that we can get the same sort of deal with the Oregon City News, where they match in kind the advertising that we pay for. So if we cut our advertising by $500, that would cut their in kind match by $500. I think we can do that without affecting very much what our goals are, which is to get more people downtown during the time the bridge is closed. So that's basically.
So we'll put 7,400 there and see how we're going. And we might have to come back to this, but this is at least a process that's taking us in the right direction, I think.
Right.
And Lloyd, please stay there because it's still downtown activity. The Three Rivers Arts Guild. This is your fault. This is your fault for getting letters of recommendations on all these projects.
Yeah.
So.
We're getting good things happening downtown. Good problem to have.
Again, Laura Rambo, Three Rivers Artists Guild. I would like to say, oh, absolutely.
We'll bring the mic closer to you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
I would like to say that I know that we could shave off $500 and we can still be alive. If it's more, I have a credit card and I'm willing to do that. I completely support the Three Rivers Artists Guild in that project.
I'm sure you must. Yeah, yes. Okay.
On that note, I'll say that I've been planning a 3-day festival in Oregon City for 15 years with an annual budget of $3,000 that actually makes money. So, I've done events, and so that background's there when I look at these two. So I understand that, and I do spend a lot of my own money to do it.
And I already have spent a ton of money.
Right, and that's what we do. When we like something, we support it.
True.
In track defense, not defense, but just a little background. In my experience on these things, here's the little dirty secret. Artists show up for free and do their thing. You got to hire musicians.
I've never paid for entertainment for 15 years of a 3-day festival. You got to go out there and work.
In my experience, to get the musicians.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're bringing that to 8,500. We're moving in the direction.
I don't think this one can
I'm going to avoid saying anything. I'm in a kind of a position, but I do know we have somebody who can come up and speak to it. I think since we're doing it, come on up and speak to it. Yes.
Well, you can stay. I know we're not downtown,
Close
but
enough.
Yeah.
You're my downtown neighborhood.
That's right. We're downtown neighborhood.
This is the for every year, even though I guess it's increased a bit, this has been, we've consistently had this coming in at the lowest grant request of any grants that we've ever received. And I'm just going to make that simple statement.
Hi, Denise McGriff from the McLaughlin Memorial Association and the Rose Farm Management Committee, and I happen to be the treasurer of both, so I have a pretty good idea of the money. I will tell you that consistently over the 3 years that we've had grants, I have unfortunately not been able to spend all of the grant money. And I've tried, but I guess it's that Scotch part of me that looks for savings at every opportunity and trying to keep the budget within reason. We were feeling a little bit emboldened this last year because we did the Oregon City is Charming program, and I was amazed at how many people came to the house and how many people came back and said, I'm here to get my charm, but I'm going to come back. And I would ask them, they said, oh, yes, you're getting a charm. And I would recognize them because I always wear my charm bracelet every week. And I just was amazed. So we're trying to be a little more proactive. We're going to try to have 3 little special events. And what's happening with those events is pretty much they'll be free. The people that are participating are going to be free, but we need a few little supplies, and we also want to do a little more advertising. So I haven't done the mock-up yet for our little brochure that we put out because I want to put those dates on there. And we actually have a musician group coming for free on a different weekend. I think that'll be in July. But I'm going to try to do my best to get close to that number. We do have a lot of volunteers, and I think as I mentioned to you in the past that the Rose Farm Management Committee has the distinction of having me as the youngest member of it. So everybody else is older than I am. So it must be something to do with my energy. So not to disparage anyone who is older than I am, but I'm trying to move this, along. And we have, when we started out, I think I put in our report that we were pleasantly surprised that we had 51 people come in 2008, and this is the 4th year of a 5-year plan. And then we went last year to 178, and I think we were dancing in the street.
Yes.
Because that was like, wow. And we're getting the word out slowly. It's one of those things that has to build momentum, and we are actually, the McLaughlin Association is in the midst of a strategic planning process, and 2 of the topics we're talking about is the aging out of our membership, and we're talking about how to fund more hours for the Rose Farm. So they've said, so Denise, why don't you retire from your full-time job, and then you can spend more time at the Rose Farm. I'm contemplating that.
There you go.
Okay.
But
what I'm going to ask you.
So we could cut out. I don't think I can go below what I did last year.
Ask for 1,100.
No, I don't want to ask for more. I think my best guess is that I might be able to come in around 900, but I promise Michelle is going to spend this year.
Well, I was going to ask you just to get the 50 out of there so we don't have that running total of $50
Okay, well, let's-
coming through
okay,
here.
well,
and I
we'll
can't
be
do
happy
anything.
to give up the 50.
I guess for this grant to cut off 200 and the other ones at 12,500.
Yeah, no.
I can't even believe we're actually having that discussion.
No, I know. No,
So
I don't think the discussion's finished yet.
no, it certainly is not.
Yeah. So, yes, Jim.
Okay, so I think we've gone through a first cut.
May I go?
And- Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. Where I'm seeing that we could still have a discussion myself is with the Trick and Racy project and the Main Street project. In particular, the cruise in downtown. Last summer's cruise-in was just awesome. It was amazing. It was just mind-blowing. And it was, what, $4,000? I don't see why it needs that much more money. I mean, to me, if it were at just the same amazing, stupendous level it was last year, would be continued success. We've talked about in the context of the chamber that the goal is to get every project that comes back for more money to ask for less. So I'm 7,900. I'm just not getting there. And I think, I mean, if we went down to 6 on that project, we could go a long way towards funding the Historical Society, and it would still be $2,000 more or less than last year's amazing, stupendous event.
Yeah, this would drop at 7,400 at this point, right? Yeah.
We've already dropped 500.
Yeah, we dropped 500 off of it. So we
Right,
got
but I think
7,400.
that project in particular could go substantially lower. And I guess on the Main Street, I guess, Lloyd, I wasn't, I'm still not clear on how
Come on back up, Lloyd.
the for City Celebration
Elizabeth, you can too if you wish.
this year is, what is the qualitative and quantitative difference in your plans for this year as opposed to last year? Because again, last year was just an amazing project. It was an amazing experience.
I have to check the proposal. I know the Rotary, the Three Rivers Arts Guild, and the downtown group that are doing this are adding some more components, so there's more cost, longer hours of operation. I guess we can say it. We're adding a beer tasting component to the wine tasting, which, and expanding hours, which means I think more costs on tables, chairs, fencing. So there's some actual hard costs involved with expanding an
Well, it's
event.
about time you had a beer.
Well, I think so. And I know in this proposal, in fact, it was written in there because I helped draft some of this, that I know that downtown events are working hard to become self-sustaining, wean themselves off of the grant funding like the Chamber's done. But a 2-year-old project isn't there yet. That's still in its diapers on these projects. Not that it say it stinks. Thank you. A little humor.
I got it.
So, you know, in my experience, these new events are startup events. They need a year or two on training wheels. So, as Elizabeth said, we learned a lot. We learned where we took a bath and lost money last year. Well, that's not something that can be sustainable either. So, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Just that, along with like some of the added costs and hard costs, which Lloyd already mentioned in here, we are adding some other ways to hopefully make money off of this event this year to put into our kitty for next year, so that, you know, if we do have to come back, it's for a less amount. But we really are working hard to, with the other organizations. Also, one of the things that I love about this event is that it's not just a Main Street project, it's a collaborative project with Rotary, with TRAG, elements of incorporating the Rotary project of Singer Falls, also funds directly that our Rotary is making off this event go towards that fundraising project for them. And so we really are trying to expand the scope of the event. We want it to be it needs to be better than last year. That's how you keep people coming back every year. We need to do more advertising. We are expanding not only just some of the internal scope of the event, but just the footprint of the event also. Trying to utilize more space on Main Street, gather more participation, and inevitably draw more people to the event as well. So again, just really focusing on the extra hard costs that we are going to be incurring, and just noting again that we are working hard to make this a sustainable event and hopefully, wean ourselves off of all of the grant funding eventually.
I think you were going further than I want to, but I'd suggest shaving the 800 off at this point and see where we're going, if that's okay. Shave
which,
off the Main Street program.
Okay, I'll mention just one more thing too. It's just back to the $800 off of this project versus $200 in McLaughlin. So I look at $3,000 for I know it didn't meet the threshold, but you have the downtown. The billboards thing. So, I mean, even if we said this, I can't believe, I'm shocked every year that we argue this, because to me, the First City Celebration asking for $5,000, even if we doubled it to 10,
So last year, the group didn't know what they were asking for even.
Lloyd, I know. I mean,
now they know what to ask
for. The same thing. You don't think that the Antique Fair had the same first year blah 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 startups? I mean, it's the same thing. They're doing it.
We're willing to hear your suggestions.
Huh?
We're willing to hear what your suggestions.
For
sure.
I would like to see. I said even if we take First City Festival $10,000, I think that's more than generous. We take the cruise down to, I don't know, 6,000, whatever. Then you even get extra advertising that's advertising Main Street as a whole with the 2 billboards that are driving people into downtown. I don't know why that's not a consideration for an event that's so important to our city to make. Because it's advertising downtown as a whole, so the thing at the bottom of the list actually advertises all the things that you're doing. So I would recommend that we figure out how we do that so that we include that as well.
Okay, I'm not sure whose hand was up first. I'll take Wendell. Anthony, is your hand up?
No.
Okay.
But I agree with Rocky.
I understand the push to get people downtown. I've spoken to the points earlier. I guess I got a question. Does the billboard downtown fit under a cultural activity, a lecture, a concert, an art show, or an educational series? That was the criteria.
Promotes tourism.
Well, but when I look down through here, we were supposed to judge on acquisition and improvement to parks and open space.
No, criteria promotes tourism.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Bring visitors to the community.
I'm sorry.
A billboard doesn't do that?
Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. I was looking in the wrong space. But also, here again, that's one of those nebulous number things.
What if Rocky's got a great idea? What if I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, could you say that again, Lloyd? Could you repeat that?
I want to ask you a question first. The billboard, do you know what it's going to say? Will it be addressing some of these things?
I think it's, as the BDC explained it to me, it would be a welcome downtown. Downtown's open. Part of it was in response to the bridge closure, a chance to catch the balls on 99E, as they explained it to me, to say, hey, there's events. I don't know that a billboard would list every event. I don't know if you can do that.
No, but you might be able to
get some of that in there.
Yeah. So that's some design in there.
Yeah.
With Rocky's idea, and so I love Rocky's idea. I'll say that time and time again. What if anything under underline 6 was funded at 86%, much like the Main Street Oregon City's First City Celebration is going to be funded at 86%. Is that what that means? The percent? No.
No, I don't want to make any cuts to any of the things. I'm proposing that the cuts to make that $3,000 come from the Main Street First City Festival and from
So you're taking projects, top 3 projects that are most well regarded and charge them less to fund a project.
We're still giving you double the money, Lloyd. Double the money of what you got last year.
We're holding you back.
You know how hard that is.
I find it extremely hard to hold you back, but I can't do it. Sometimes I have to deal with her in different venues. Anyways, so,
if you want to be here, you can be here. Please don't look over my shoulder, Karen.
I just want a quick comment to this topic.
I mean, you know, your hands are out there welcoming. Her hands on her hip. You notice that? Well, first of all, it sounded like Lloyd was accepting your argument to a large extent.
Only by decreasing everyone else's, even though we've already said we want to fund certain projects fully.
Well, yeah, and we can have the discussion on a project-by-project basis yet. I'd like to get some comments from others first as to whether there's a consensus to drop it down another 1,000, the Main Street Oregon City. I get a couple nods.
Can I ask a question about your process and ranking and stuff? So is there any guidelines about then how a project ends up coming out in the rank and then directly tie it into funding allocation?
There's no.
I just don't know how the process works for you.
It's whatever we want.
I just didn't know what the process was. No worries.
You will notice in the discussions that occurred when we were talking about what we were doing, there were very different methods involved, and we look at it very different ways. And so,
okay.
So, is there a consensus bringing it down to 10,000, or is there somebody that's going to object to it?
I'm going to object to that.
Okay.
I don't want to cut that thing any farther than it really needs to be cut, because I think it is one of the most successful.
Yes, it is.
events
And
going.
10,000 seems like a good number. Do you want to put that 10,000 into Main Street, Oregon City? Michelle?
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, we're almost there for Clackamas County Historical Society. I'm going to suggest we bring the Clackamas County Historical Society back.
I think so too.
Yep. Can we have the representative of the Clackamas Historical Society coming up? What would happen to you if we give you $11,000?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say it would be ingracious of me not to acknowledge the sacrifices that other people have made here tonight in order to make this happen, and for your willingness to work something out. I really appreciate that. Yeah. I think that we'll make do with that in light of everything that's everyone's given up tonight. We'll make do with that.
Okay, thank you. You put in $11,000 to the Clackamas County Historical Society. We're there, and we can get $50 to OC Downtown Business Coalition. No,
we could have
not the end of the discussion. It's not the end of the discussion.
We could have done the billboards if the downtown events wanted to cut to make that happen. If they don't, then they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, give the $50 back to the Rose Farm.
I agree with that.
We did take it away. Yeah. We didn't take anything away from the Rose Farm.
Oh, good.
You want to give them another 50?
Round it up.
Well, our discussion isn't finished, I don't think. I mean, I do say that, you come down into the lower portion in terms of the average ranking.
Yes.
The Mount Pleasant thing, I'm sure there's benefits to it, but in fact, it did come out considerably lower than anything else, and I think we can, my opinion is we ought to zero it out. Does anybody disagree with that?
Somebody's here to speak.
One person at least disagrees.
Come forward, because I do have an alternative suggestion. You won't like it all, but come on forward.
I'm sorry, Doug, I missed which one you were talking about.
The last one, the bottom one.
Mount Pleasant.
Mount Pleasant.
Well, I'm Jim Brown.
Yeah.
I'm president of...
The bottom one is what I meant to say.
I'm Jim Brown. I'm president of Trick and Racy Cars. I started Mount Pleasant Cruise 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The principal there asked for help for needy children. And I picked up the ball, and I've been carrying it. Every year I've got the community to donate to put this show on to help needy children. You talk about what does it do for Oregon City? Well, the kids in Oregon City is the history of Oregon City. They're going to make the history 10 years from now. I consider kids are very important. I have the show on Sunday for 2 reasons. One thing, the kids come, they judge the cars, they pick the winners. But it brings people into Oregon City on Saturday. They go home on Monday. They're staying in the hotels, they're eating at the restaurants, they're buying gas. They're tourists. We've had people from California, Canada, Washington, Idaho. The show gets bigger every year. Most shows don't get bigger every year. This show does because the people come because they like what the show's for, to help a community, to help children. I didn't even know about your grant program until last year, and like I said, I've always done it by the community, and with the economic times of last year and this year, I needed help, so I asked for 3,000, hoping to get 2.
I would comment that although I appreciate your logic, what you said still doesn't meet our criteria. Now, the notion that these people will go elsewhere, perhaps use other facilities, does. But I don't think we can use the argument here. It's for kids. I really don't think that follows our criteria. It really has to follow our criteria. So if you want to make a different pitch, go ahead. But
Well,
I mean,
benefits Oregon City.
You're talking several thousand people come to this show, either in the cars or as spectators come into Oregon City.
What percentage would you say are from out of the metro area?
Probably 25 to 30%.
So that's about 750 people, 750 families.
Have a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Marty.
One of the questions I had too is because I know this is a great event, and I know, and you mentioned this a little bit already. I know that it's partly a great event because of the principal at that school, who we all know very well. And my assumption, I mean, it's been an annual event. Things change at schools when principals leave, and Carol's leaving. So part of my thought with this, I don't know, is this going to I hope this is an event that would continue. I mean, I would hate to put money into an event that happens this year and then completely dies as it's growing. So
Actually, Carol is the second principal that we've had for this event.
Oh, I did not know that. It's been I didn't know it was going. So it's
Mary,
how many years?
the principal before her, is the one that asked for the help.
Great.
One thing, however we do this. Yes, go ahead. I want to make a comment, though. However we do this is that we might let some flexibility in terms of the wording here, some flexibility in terms of how Trick and Racy Car Club allocate to the downtown and the Mount Pleasant, and we can give you that freedom in the process. I'm not suggesting that we're going to knock you out of the Mount Pleasant, but we might do something where you can actually make some decisions. How do you allocate between the downtown and the Mount Pleasant project? I'm just suggesting we might put that in your ballpark. I'm not saying how you would do it at this point. We're just looking at the monies. So that's one thought that came to mind.
Yeah, that's
a good thought. I have another question. First of all, I really support the activity because not just because it's a neat activity, but I like the idea of getting 2,000 additional souls into this city under any guise we can. It's just got to be good for the city, regardless of where they are. I don't care where they are in the city. 2,000 more people in the city for over a 24-hour span is good for us, which is one of the definitions of tourism, right? Getting people in here. But I have a procedural question. When we started this game, this process, we talked about $45,000.
Yep.
And initially, that was up to $45,000, and then we heard that we do have funds allocated for the future. And what I'm just suggesting is that they came asking for 3 and would be happy with 2. Is it possible we can take the other 2 from that future monies? Just is it possible?
Here's, I think, I'm going to have David Wimmer, but I'm going to speak to that. When we're talking about future monies, my understanding is we're talking about future revenues from the hotel motel tax. Is that correct, David? Yeah. And the thing, we've done this in the past, but at the same time, we're robbing the future. I mean, it'd be nice to be at a point where we're allocating monies that we actually receive, and we have a better idea of how much money we will have the next go-around. And so, I mean, we can do that. I'm not saying we can't do that, but I'm just saying what the downside of that is.
I believe in the past we've found out how many times a year do we get money coming in?
I'm going to ask David Wimmer to come forward.
Because I think in the past we have looked at the events when they are in the year, and I don't know if that's true or not, but
Diagram, yeah.
I mean, we may have $2,000 in our account before that event happens.
I don't think we've looked at it before. We get monthly. I mean, we get a check every month from the River Shore. And
monthly.
One from the park. But I missed the discussion on the Park Place thing.
The consensus was that we would let the Park Place go forward.
Oh, okay.
But they only get one more year. This year's extension is the last one.
Now, you do get in at $50,000, and you're about at break even now. So I mean, if you rather than sitting there beating your heads. And the number 8 there said they would be happy with 2,000. That makes you at 50,450. So I mean, it just makes you you're not putting any more away for the year. But I mean,
that's a third off of their request.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, he said he would be. They came in with. So I mean, you did the 51,450. You're almost trading water. So that's not. You're not going down a whole bunch.
So. Is that what your recommendation is? 2,000. Let's put 2,000 now in the Trick and Racy Car Club.
For Mount Pleasant.
For Mount Pleasant.
I don't agree with that, just for the record.
Well, we'll put it in, and then we can undo it. That's the beauty of spreadsheets.
What are we doing with the downtown coalition?
Yeah, Control Z or that backwards arrow there. Yes.
Nothing.
We can undo everything. I think we probably can undo everything we've done with the Control Z's. I don't think we want to do it.
It's all digital.
Okay. So
I think they can kind of.
Your objection. Go ahead.
As I was saying before, the amount of money that they are asking for above and beyond last year, which was already a spectacular event, it just makes me uneasy. I do think that the mayor's idea of awarding $7,400 to the Trick and Racy Car Club and letting them allocate according to their best judgment
It's
between
not
the
quite
two
what I
projects.
said.
Yeah.
What I said is we can give a total amount. That could be the 7,400. We can give them a total amount, and they can make the decision how to allocate the total amount. I didn't mean to suggest that the 7,400 was the total amount.
So what would you suggest for total amount?
I am suggesting 7,400 as the total amount.
But first, would you guys know how to share the money? I mean, how are you?
That's the same one.
Well, that's their decision. That's their decision.
But we should.
Assuming it's fungible.
What are we doing with the Downtown Business Coalition?
Well, I had a suggestion. I had a suggestion there. David Wimmer felt very comfortable with it being something like 41. You could take 500 off of them, and now we're below 50,000 slightly.
Or we put it to 0 since
we don't have a representative here. However,
how about if we?
Or do we? Other than you? Yeah. Yes.
To preserve Rockies, I think, very good idea. Obviously, that a project like that promotes all the downtown events.
Yes.
My understanding from their proposal is that it's a dollar for dollar match on their ad expense. So any any amount you reduce that would simply reduce the length of the billboard.
Right.
So if it was only funded to, say, 3,000 or 2005, I don't have their proposal in front of me, but I bet you that just means
Yeah.
there's one less month of advertising.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
it's still a great project. It's still
Is-
something
It's still
innovative.
good. Yeah.
Lloyd, do you know, is it one billboard? Is it two? Because it was plural in the thing, but I don't know what that means. If it's, do you know
my
how
unders-
that splits that? Because that seems like a low amount of money for a billboard.
My understanding is it would be the billboard that's at the bridge on McLaughlin.
Okay, but in the proposal, it implies more than one.
I think that depends on the funding amount. If you're going to go any lower, but I don't know billboard rates. So
Yeah. Okay.
which I won't even apologize for not
See-
knowing that. So, but knowing that a reduction in that category doesn't mean that project couldn't be done.
Right.
It just means that the
It'd
length
be
is
shorter.
Shorter amount of time.
Summer months.
Yeah, right.
So
'Cause
if
I think
you-
they said May through October.
So it just made
Is what they said on
stretch it as far as the budget will allow.
I'll
Maybe
look.
2,000? Something to think about.
Any arguments to 2,000?
I don't think it should be funded.
Pardon?
I don't think it should be funded. I think the proposal was undeveloped.
Is there, well, let me ask you, how many people think it should be funded?
I don't think it's funded.
I did, but
Yes.
with I mean, I think there was no biting from some of the downtown businesses to cut money off of their projects to support it. So that tells me
Nor was there a
it's not
representative
it's
here
not
to
that,
defend it.
and it was late.
And it's late.
And there was no representative here to defend it.
So
And
I
there is
wouldn't
no
mind
rep-
taking
there
it
is
to
no-
zero.
There is no representative to defend it?
So-
Zero. Okay, I think that's a good, the latter one is my best argument. Okay. we're close, and I don't know if I guess it's just another month of money coming in from something. So it's we're not really biting into the future here. Is there now? We'll come to Jim Nacita's suggestion that we only fund Trick and Racy Car Club to the tune of the 7,400 and let them allocate it as they wish. How many are in favor of that? I think only Jim is. How many are happy with where we've gotten to this at this
I'm
point?
happy with this.
I'm satisfied.
Yeah, I am too.
How many are satisfied? Let's just get a show of hands.
What is this?
The total.
This total.
We've come to a total amount.
6,950.
It's pretty close to the 45,000.
Sorry, where would that additional fund come from?
It's a future, maybe part of the next month's income coming from the hotel motel tax. It's a small portion now.
And the argument on that also is that, and it's a real, I don't know what the cliche is, catch-22 or chicken on the egg or whatever it is.
Yes.
But if the purpose of these is to increase tourism, and the tourism then increases the hotel motel tax,
Right.
then
Yeah, that is true, but actually that tax is, that amount of money has been fairly consistent, and I don't think, there were times when we were, I want to have David Wimmer, because he's got the history, come forward, but actually there were times when we were taking far more from the future, weren't we? Yeah, and the thing is, I don't know that made a whole lot of difference in what the motel hotel tax is. It's probably one of the issues when we've got one hotel.
Right.
We got to do major other things in the city to make sure we get more hotels. Is what it boils down to. I guess a little bit of money comes from the RV park, but it doesn't amount to too much. The Hotel Blue Heron, maybe. That's a discussion to have, but yes. I quipped, and somebody I think took it seriously, and it came back at me. I don't think anybody identified me as a member of the commission. I quipped, well, we could have the Grand Ron is interested in the fall, so we might have a casino here. And somebody actually reported that to somebody else, and I'm sorry that I ever made that. I was in jest. I didn't really mean it. But if we're going to be a tourist destination, then at one point or another, we should see more more places where people are going to stay overnight. And this program really isn't doing that, but it does meet our obligation. I think this is a great total, unless somebody else wants to fiddle with this some more.
I think it's great.
Let me hear a motion that this is where we're at. Do I hear one?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
May I have a vote?
First was
William?
Sorry. And then Betty, second?
Yes.
And I'm going to ask for a poll because I'm not sure we have a consensus on this. So let's go ahead and poll, starting wherever you want to start. Since you like to play around with this. It's actually 46, almost 47, just slight of 47.
Oh, okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
okay. Wendell,
Aye.
William,
Yes.
Jim,
I'm still concerned about the cruise in total, but it's not a deal breaker. Aye.
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Rocky,
Aye.
Doug,
Yes.
and Kathy.
What about Anthony?
Pardon? Oh, I missed Anthony. Sorry.
See, that's what you get for messing around with us.
So Kathy and Anthony.
That was intentional on her part. She didn't want to go in a straight line. She wanted to
I
mix
was
this
doing
up.
out of my.
I was trying to give you a benefit of the doubt. Take it, Michelle.
Got it. So we are funding at 46,950.
Yes.
Yay.
I think this is a good process. I don't think anybody, well, but perhaps somebody that's not here. But other than that, if anybody is that upset? I appreciate the effort to of those that put forward proposals to recognize the importance of these other activities and adjust the request accordingly. It makes things a great deal, a lot more easy on this one than we do. So we've done the award allocations. We're going to establish the next meeting dates and time.
And we've always had that on the agenda. We typically keep it each March
Okay.
after spring break if there's any. The question is, it doesn't sound like or appear like we need to do any work session in between.
And I think the decisions this group has made in terms of extensions and so forth is going to be a formulated policy, so we won't need to have this debate anymore if we get something coming in. Well, apparently a 15-minute late now.
How do we formalize that policy?
We voted on it.
It'll be in the as the minutes.
Well, it'll be in the minutes, which will be approved then next year.
Before.
Yes.
And where would those, is there like a summary of those rules that have been passed over the years?
Summary.
Well,
It would just be in the past minutes.
Well, I think the question is there a mechanism of actually incorporating that decision, not only in the minutes, but we got the criteria. I don't think there's any problem with us within the document itself. I don't know where it occurs in the document, to actually have that formalized in the document. So it's,
like an addendum to the charter where these are the decisions that have been made
So-
by committees in the past.
So what you might do...
Yeah, there hasn't been anything that formal.
Well, I would suggest that we do that, so that's a guide, and we can approve that the next time around. That is, you point out what we've said tonight, and bring it forward and make it more than a minutes issue, because we don't want to have somebody go back 10 years ago to the minutes to find out what we're supposed to have been doing. So I think that is critical.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any issues that we want to continue talking about, or are we all happy?
I have a quick
Go ahead.
question.
Yes.
I know that our sole funding source is...
Not quite, but almost.
Almost the sole funding source is the room tax.
Yes.
I do see in the charter where we can accept donations. If we're having these types of foot traffic events downtown,
Yes.
Artist Guild, have we ever tried, I don't know, putting up a mason jar?
Well, historically, actually, there were donations made, and this actually became a recipient for donations. They haven't. I don't think we've had them for several years, but I know, and I'm not sure even when I've been on the commission, there have been donations. But I know before I was on the commission, there in fact were donations that were made, and we still have the capability of accepting them. Yeah, go ahead, Rocky.
I was going to say, and perhaps if some of these events that start actually bringing in money, they could actually make a donation.
Yeah, they look really good to us in the future, won't they? And we're going to get that memorialized, and what your comment in terms of what the decisions that we've made.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other comments? I saw one from the audience.
I was going to say, Michelle usually puts all that information in the instructions that you're applying for the grant. And that's where the 3 p.m. deadline, it was in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
But online anywhere.
Yeah.
Online.
It was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the website.
Yep. Well, it turned out almost an academic discussion in terms of the one that came in late, particularly if, of course, most of you know that. If you're not here, most anything can happen to you.
And that's my apology. A schedule change came up, and I had to be out of town.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
There's a couple dates that I would like the council, since we're all together, to be
Right.
aware of. Shall I do it from this position or that position?
No. We won't make you move.
Last week in
Wendell, could you bring your microphone? Thank you.
There's a couple dates that I want the council to be aware of events that are coming into Oregon City or will be close proximity. The last weekend of September, and it's a 3-day, the Governor's Council on Historic Trails will be centered in Oregon City. We'll be dealing with the Barlow Road and attempting to set up housing. Our housing is set up through the state, but I've called the state, the gal that sets it up, and said, listen, we have one motel hotel, that's the one we need to stay at. You book us into that hotel.
Good.
And to try to pay back some. And then if the bid goes well, and I may need to contact you, Mr. Mayor, or some of you in your official capacity, and it's appearing to be sometime in the last 2 weeks of July in 2013, the Oregon-California Trails Association, OCTA, is looking to center its national convention in Oregon City if the bid is accepted. We're talking about 400 people. If I did an impromptu tour on Monday through Oregon City High School. I haven't contacted anyone official there, just seeing if it might meet our needs. I also took the representative through the Abernathy Center, and we tried to get into the community building. We talked about the senior center, and we talked about those areas in town that are big enough to, we have a general meeting of about 400 to 450 people. We need breakout rooms for the various state chapters from across the United States to break out. There will be an artist fair, or an author's fair. So all this is coming together, and so I'll keep everyone posted, but if I need some kind of official endorsement, I'd like to be able to approach the city council if I could.
Absolutely. Very good. Thank you, Wendell. Any other business announcements or anything of that form? Otherwise, I'll just say well done.
And if you'll leave your notebooks, if you don't want them, if you want to pull papers out, that'd be great. I'll read them next year. Maybe not.
These processes usually go pretty well.
Mr. Mayor, it does go well when you don't have the, if you forgive me, you don't have the...
You don't start, where is your now? You just call me Doug. You're the only one that's calling me Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm sorry, that's it.
You bet. Well, we're...